So you have an idea for a new product and you want to get funding for it. What are some things you can do to increase your chances for a successful outcome, or at least so others can potentially become interested in what you have to say? I have to admit, at the earliest stages of a venture, your background and motivation, your concept, and the team you're working with are the most critical aspects of the venture. People who are thinking about providing you with capital will be most interested in those three elements of your future business. When you've made some headway there and included a completed needs gap and benchmarking analysis, then it's time to involve some forecasting. For a bit of background, a needs gap analysis is simply asking the question, what problem are you trying to solve by introducing your new product or service? In other words, what customer pain are you trying to alleviate? And for the benchmarking analysis, what other products are out there trying to address this, and how sustainable will your product's advantage be? As you are completing that analysis, it will be time to start thinking about product pricing and costs of production, implementation, and distribution. Analyzing a new idea will involve a very particular recipe that we'll introduce you to here. It will incorporate pieces from a variety of financial statements, but there's no need for you to know accounting to be able to complete a new product analysis. It's the recipe that's important. First rule, keep it simple. You want to know the incremental cash inflows and cash outflows, as well as the timing of them, if you elect to launch your new product. That's it. Second rule, in most cases you'll be trying to predict the future, and it will be difficult on the best days and impossible otherwise. Know that the goal isn't necessarily to get the perfect or even the right answers, but rather to gain a comprehensive understanding of the factors that will influence success or failure. Early stage venture capitalists will be much more concerned about the value drivers and your understanding of them compared with the actual numbers in your forecasts. The later stages of funding and product maturity will lead to a more balanced approach to presenting and advocating for your ideas, and undoubtedly will include more financial metrics. Now, on to the ingredients. First, include a sales forecast. Yes, you will need to put yourself out there and try to puzzle out who will buy how much of your product at a specific pricing scheme over a 3, 6, 9, or 12-month horizon, or potentially longer if you're in the implementation stage. Another rule while we're at it. If you do this without talking to potential customers, there's something wrong. It's not about the price as much as it is about the concept and whether someone will pull the trigger to purchase. Second, include a schedule of costs, both amounts and timing. Another rule here, if you do this without getting specific estimates from manufacturers, producers, or suppliers, there's something wrong. Do your homework to get some level of detail. And remember that this is not an exercise as much as it is a way to start to build out your ecosystem. Third, do some benchmarking. There are many sources online, such as BizMiner, where you can get an idea as to what your cost structure and growth rates look like relative to others in a similar area or field. This can give you a much-needed objective check against what your assumptions are. If your numbers look very different than a peer set, you need to peel back the layers and look harder to figure out why. Fourth, put it all together into a comprehensive summary, a forecast of project inflows and outflows over time. This will give you a real lens into what your cash burn rate will be, when you might start making money, and how much financing you will ultimately need. And it will allow you to run several revenue and cost scenarios or paths. To give you a sense for some of the details, here are some highlights in the forecasting process. You want to forecast revenue by spelling out both quantity or volume as well as price per unit. This will be important if you need to adapt either figure later. Also, if you have multiple products, you'll want to be aware if one product affects the sales of any of your other products, as you'll want to incorporate these side effects into your analysis. Also, let's say you have use of an existing facility or space, so it doesn't cost you anything, but a cost accountant tells you that your product's allocation is $12,000. That may influence the product's profit statement, but since there's no cash outflow, You should not incorporate the $12,000 cost. Fourth, let's say you spent $50,000 last year on the design for your product. This $50,000 is important to track over time, but you do not want it to adversely influence whether you move forward, because this is something called the sunk cost. The key is that it's already gone, so you should only look at monies that have yet to be spent in your product investment analysis. One last piece of the recipe to consider. Put your forecast or analysis into a framework where there are 3 parts: launch, operating, and sunset, when the time comes. That is, what will it take to get the product up and running? What will the inflows and outflows look like during the growth and maturity of the product? And what will things look like when the product sunsets or you move on to version 2.0? As a final reminder, follow the cash, track the cash, and perhaps more importantly, be able to explain what causes the cash to come in and the cash to go out, whether it has to do with customer decisions, your decisions, or some external factor.